This week, the Supreme Court hears arguments for and against birthright citizenship. And I can't even believe I'm saying that, because who would have thought this was even up for debate? Birthright citizenship is a function of the 14th Amendment, which we enacted after the Civil War to ensure citizenship to formerly enslaved people who built this country and their children. For more clarity, enslaved people were not considered citizens of the United States, and in fact, the Supreme Court had previously determined in the Dred Scott decision that no black man had any rights any white man had to consider. So, once the Civil War was over and slavery was outlawed, the U.S. government made a move to put into the Constitution official U.S. citizenship for the formerly enslaved and their children. And for these last 100 or so years, everyone who has sought refuge in this country has enjoyed the benefits of that decision. So if you're the child, grandchild, great-grandchild of an immigrant, you benefited from this. And this is how everyone benefits when we look out for the least of these, meaning those who are most vulnerable. Those who call themselves Christians should recognize that language. Of course, people who call themselves Christians are making this argument against birthright citizenship, and they've taken it all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. The complaint is that birthright citizenship allows too many people to come here illegally, have babies, and then stay. And they don't want that. They don't want those parents or their kids to be able to stay here. So I watched the lawyer for this side claim that birthright citizenship allows for birth tourism, where people come here just to give birth and their children will have U.S. citizenship. But that actually is only a fraction of all births to immigrants in this country, whether or not those immigrants are here legally or illegally. And birth tourism is actually counted as those who are here with tourist visas and then give birth. And that requires resources. So my guess is those aren't the people the proponents of this argument are after. His argument also was that one illegal act is illegal, and that's all that matters. This is the argument for other things when there's a very little problem, like illegal citizens voting, which again happens at like 0.04% of the time. The interesting thing is that this argument goes completely out the window for real problems like gun violence, which is the leading cause of death for children in the United States. So, once again, we're faced with a solution in search of a problem and a once fringe argument that has made its way into the mainstream. And the threat of that is that something that has been decided and accepted American law and value is now being challenged in the highest court of the land. America is greatest when we open up our arms to be more inclusive. And that doesn't mean we have to have open borders. It does mean that we should not be spending so much time and more time putting obstacles up for Americans to be full participants in our society. And that definitely does not make us great. And speaking of open borders, I hear a lot of people say, oh, I'm not against immigration. We should just make sure people are coming here legally or the right way. Or folks will say, especially when they're children or grandchildren of immigrants, they'll say something like, my people came here the right way. Fun fact, for most of U.S. history, we had no restrictions on immigration. We restricted citizenship at one point to white people, which was actual U.S. policy, but there were few restrictions on immigrating here. And when there were restrictions, it was against people of color, like the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. It wasn't until the 1924 Johnson-Reed Act that we ended what was effectively an open border policy and began to put restrictions on immigration. That's when we implemented quotas based on national origin. And those quotas overwhelmingly favored Europeans, and still do. But I guess those kinds of quotas are okay.